public introduction to Aztec football season a little different this year, as befits its entree into the new Pac-12. Trip to Vegas for its former conference media festivities is out. In is something that befits the Pac-12. Friday summer session with local media. Steve Perez here with Aztecs All In podcast. The Pac-12, the only FBS league skipping traditional multi-day media days this year. Makes financial sense. Logistically, the reasoning is the schools can continue focusing on off-season conditioning and gear up for fall camps coming up in early August. Knock it out in half a day, dispense with the travel. Local media invited to Snapdragon Stadium to hear from Director of Athletics John David Wicker, head coach Sean Lewis, as well as players, coaches. A familiar post-game setting for JD and Coach Lou. Players, coaches set up at tables in the adjacent Cox Business Center. Fall camp coming up fast, as well as the regular season, which opens September 5th against Portland State at home. Why don't we get to a few comments from JD on the big picture off the top and start off with a fresh take from the AD on the long and winding road to the Pac-12 finally being here and what it's going to take to get the Aztecs to make even more noise on the national level. One reporter described the Pac-12 implosion that led to the mass exodus as a trauma. JD now with enough distance from that situation to be able to laugh about it now.
Are we calling it trauma? Yeah, it was trauma. There was a grieving process at one point. We're excited. I think this is just one step in continuing to be the competitive program that we want to be. We've always, I'll say we've always punched above our weight. People have closed doors on our face and we just kick it open. So we're in the Pac-12 now. Now the idea is to go and to be as competitive as possible and to continue showing up in places that people don't expect us to show up because of that success.
To be clear, from the program's perspective, the season ticket prices since the big stadium opening a few years back have come down. JD's message is clear. Time for the city to show the love, fill the building.
There really is no reason not to purchase season tickets. And if we want to stay competitive in the Pac-12 and nationally, then this fan base, this town has to step up now and sell Snapdragon out. In year one of Snapdragon, we sold over 15,000 season tickets. We should be doing that every year.
Yeah, but fans are fickle, and after the novelty of the new stadium wore off, no longer even has that new stadium smell, and so-so seasons ensued, the big coaching change made. Aztecs appear now to have turned the corner under coach Sean Lewis, whose Aztecs won 9 games last season, battled for the conference championship down the stretch. A final game lost to New Mexico knocked them down into a multi-team tie. Aztecs did not win the tiebreaker. Now, public reports have showed a steady decline in the number of season tickets sold from that number that JD mentioned to 5,400 last season. No public number out so far for this season, but pricing's been brought down. You can get some season seats as low as $175. Now, personally, if I were running the Aztecs program, I'd be happy with a healthy increase to at least 9,000 this season. If they can hit 12,000, well, that would help begin a new positive trend and restore a solid base. There are a lot of different reasons, but you can't blame the Stadium Excellence gift, which has been dropped. Honestly, the transfer portal NIL era has added a new objection. Some players now in this era, it's 1 year they're here, the next year they're off to play elsewhere for a bigger paycheck. So on that big picture topic, the college athletics scene is still pretty fragmented despite moves toward more standardization. There's some much-needed congressional legislation that needs to happen to prevent some of the absurd court rulings in the states when the right set of attorneys get a unique set of circumstances in front of the right sympathetic judge. So beyond the issue of ticket sales, Wicker also weighed in on the bigger picture of college athletics reform.
And I'm definitely a yes for the Protect College Sports Act, looking at some of the things that the SEC and the Big Ten want to modify on it. Does that help the bill? Yes. I think one of the biggest things for me right now is the antitrust exemption and the ability to limit the right of action in state courts. I mean, there's obviously certain elements that are going to come up that, yes, a student athlete should be able to go to a state court if they've had a bad experience with, an injury or something like that. But the constant string of lawsuits around eligibility, transfer portal, and all of that, it doesn't belong in state court. That's probably one of the biggest pieces. The ability to set the transfer rules and have one free transfer, I think that makes perfect sense. And then after that, it does get into academics. You see kids right now, third and fourth school, they're having to degree shop to be able to find a degree program that they can get into to be eligible for the fall. There is still academics about this. So I think being able to set those rules, codifying the House settlement rules so that we know what that cap is, and that the CSC has the ability to go out and adjudicate the rules that the Power Four wrote within the House settlement and we all agreed to. That's important. So I'm hopeful. I was disappointed to see this morning that Senator Thune has announced they probably won't get this to the floor before the August recess. Would have preferred that to happen, but hopefully during the recess period they can really nail down the language and come back and immediately get that bill done. And I think if you can get a big enough number of senators behind it, and especially if LSU, since Scalise and Johnson in the House, or the leadership out of Louisiana, if you can get them on board, then I think hopefully we can move it through the House quickly.
Meantime, as always in a new season, expectations are high. Recall how emotional JD was in announcing the Aztecs' addition to the Pac-12 way back when. Asked about how he'd feel when it's time to officially kick off its first Pac-12 game at Texas State at home October the 3rd, and about expectations overall. They remain high, but it's the same old about how you play football games, or any game for that matter.
It's 1 week at a time. You'll hear the coaches say that, and we definitely, our goal is to be 4-0 going into the Texas State game, and coming out of it to be 1-0 and leading the Pac-12. Our expectation is to win championships. That's our expectation within our athletic department. And, as you look at, historically, the number of championships that we've won across all of our sports, our expectation is to compete for championships, and our fan base should expect that come November, San Diego State football is competing for its first Pac-12 championship, and they should be here to support them.
So after Mr. Wicker made the case for a full stadium and championship expectations, it was head coach Sean Lewis' turn. Coach Lewis opening his Pac-12 era media day appearance with clear expectations for his team and a direct message to the fan base.
Our standards and expectations are higher than any external labels that get put on it. And as JD referenced, our expectations and our standards to win championships, right? So everything that we do on a daily basis is to do it at a championship level. And this year, last year we were competing for the last Mountain West championship, right? Late in the season, put ourselves in position because of the work that we did. We came up a little bit short, need to do a better job with that, right? But hey, this year, right, the trophy and the conference will be different. And again, that's elevated because it's a national brand on a national stage. But since day one, we've been talking about establishing habits, establishing processes, establishing systems that are at a championship level so that we can bring championships home, right? Like the last thing that's going to happen that first week in December is that the Aztecs, if done properly, if the work is done properly, will be recognized as Pac-12 champions, right? So we need to act like champions today and every single day going forward, so that whatever that trophy looks like, I'm excited to see what that trophy looks like, right? That it's in our trophy case at the end of the year.
So at home, the standard was set pretty high. Aztecs did not lose a home football game. Lewis pointed to that record of home dominance and issuing a challenge to the community and reward the players for their work with some good old-fashioned home field advantage that comes with a full house.
It's really, truly an honor. And we would not be in the position that we are right now if it wasn't for the work that they're willing to do. And then, again, everything that happens on Saturday nights at Snapdragon and everywhere else that we play is because of that work and because of who they are, and it's truly about them. So excited for our community to show up, to support them here at Snapdragon, where we haven't lost a game in over a year. We have one of the longest active home winning streaks in the country, and we need our community to come up and support us and to be a part of the work that we continue to do, right? And that's a lot of what we've been talking about. There's a lot of great things that happened last year, but last year's last year. And all that great work that we did has positioned us and has rewarded us with more work. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that our guys, learn under our care, that as you do the work at a high level, the reward is that you get more of it and the expectations get greater, and more is expected of you, more is going to be demanded of you. And our guys embrace that.
Now, we've noted in past episodes the departures of Aztecs football players, but Lewis refuses to use that as an excuse. He makes the point that every season, every team is different. In later episodes, we will have interviews with some of the returning starters and team leaders from last season, players such as quarterback Jaden Denigal, running back Lucky Sutton on offense, Malachi Finau, Brady Nasser on defense, plenty more, of course. But here's Lewis talking about expectations amid the type of roster turnover that has become the norm in the era of the transfer portal and NIL. Aztecs had 27 transfers brought in for 2026 and 24 incoming freshmen. That's high school and early enrollees. That's a little over half the roster between both of them. Lewis referenced about 60 newcomers in his talk between scholarship and walk-ons. That's out of an official roster limit allowed of 105. So the program's overall standard remains high regardless of how many players you bring in, he says.
They're all year one, right? So I sit here and I know on the handout, hey, it's Coach Lewis's year 3, but the transient nature that is college football, right? Like, this is year 1 for this team, and this will be the 104th Aztec team. It'll be one of one, regardless of, hey, the number of transfers that we have that's so well documented, the way the roster construction is now. Like, I've had the privilege and the honor to talk to, some of the past greats that Coach Coryell coached. And it's an amazing number of those guys that started out at Arizona State, they started out at Stanford, they started out at UCLA. They were the portal era guys before there even was a portal, right? And so coaches have been doing this for a long time, right? And again, establishing a winning culture, establishing a championship culture, even with the guys who are out here that's been around, right? Like, the roles that they need to play for this team are different than what they were a year ago. As I get to know these guys at an intimate level with the intimate work that we're going to get to do here through training camp, the way that I lead them will be different, right? And that's what head coaches do, right? And it looks a little bit different. The landscape's changed a little bit different, but it's my job to sit there and to make sure that, I'm positioning our staff, our players, our program in the best possible position to bring home championships and help them grow as men. And whether it's roughly 60 newcomers, scholarship guys and walk-ons in total, or there's all kinds of retention coming back, like, there's new roles, there's new faces, there's new places that we got to get to, and new challenges, right? I mean, like, 7 of the 11 known opponents are brand new coaching staffs with brand new rosters. So this isn't a Aztec thing. This is a everyone thing.
All right, how about we close this with a quick take on Lewis's view of the Aztecs defense, a highlight from last year's team.
Obviously, last year's was elite. We led the country in shutouts. A lot of those guys are in NFL camps, and this year, with camp not starting yet, there's still a lot to be proven, and there's still a lot to show. But I was really eager and really excited as we went through spring ball, the way that Coach Sum led that side of the ball, the way that he was able to put his touch and his identity on the defense, the way that our guys responded to his coaching, to Coach White as a new coach, his coaching, Coach Farrell as a new coach, his coaching, the growth of Coach McGorisk and his role in the back end, Coach Sutton, their leadership. And then, again, there's a hunger and there's a humility and there's a chip on the shoulder of our defensive unit right now because of all of this, right? Like, the fuel that you guys are offering to the fire, like, let's call it what it is. There's not a whole lot of expected right now on that side of the ball. And, like, I can't get enough of that, so I can just throw it up in all their lockers and, let them know that, hey, like, what are we going to do about this? So I'm excited to see them respond to that as we go forward.
Coach Sean Lewis, Aztecs head coach, setting the tone for year 1 of the new Pac-12 era. Championship expectations, home dominance, a fresh roster ID, and a highly motivated defense. Had a nice talk with Demetrius Sumler, a local hero out of Cathedral Catholic High back in the day, and hope to include some of his thoughts in a future episode. Meantime, thanks for stopping by in this episode of Aztecs All In. You can catch us on the X, Aztecs_all_in, and drop us a note at aztecsallin@gmail.com. We will be back with you again soon.